At my grandma's retirement dinner, my place card said the extra guest. My aunt winked and said, "Well, you were never really part of the family." So I stood up, tapped my fork on my glass, and said, "Let's celebrate the last time I'll let you all disrespect me." They laughed until I walked out and left behind one final. Okay, so let me just start by saying that my family is complicated. To put it bluntly, they've never been exactly welcoming or loving. I'm Olivia, 29F, and I've always felt like the black sheep of my family. Maybe it's because I didn't turn out exactly like everyone else. While they all went for safe careers in finance, medicine, or law, I followed my passion and became a photographer. But that's not even the main reason I've been treated like an outsider. Anyway, let me set the stage for this. It was last weekend, and my grandma, Eleanor, was having a retirement dinner to celebrate her years of teaching. She had been a teacher at the local high school for decades, and now, at the age of 80, she was finally retiring. We were all supposed to gather at this upscale restaurant downtown, a place that's a bit too fancy for my taste. But hey, it was for Grandma, so I didn't mind. I made sure to RSVP early and let them know I'd be there. Now, the family dynamic has always been tense, but the last couple of years, it's gotten even worse. You see, I have an aunt, my mom's sister, Sarah, who has always been a bit of a piece of work. She's the type who thinks she knows everything, and if you're not doing exactly what she's doing, well, you're just doing it wrong. We used to get along when I was younger, but things soured over the years. Mostly because, in her eyes, I wasn't successful enough. When I quit my corporate job to chase photography, she acted like I had thrown my life away. She didn't hold back on letting me know how disappointed she was in me, and that's when the cracks really started to show. The dinner was set up with a formal seating arrangement, and of course, it was a little awkward from the start. You could tell everyone was on edge: my mom, my aunt, my cousins. I walked in a little late because of traffic, and I was immediately hit with the stares as I made my way to the table. That's when I noticed the place card. I had been given the seat labeled the extra guest. I froze. Sure, I wasn't as closely related to everyone else as some of them were, but this felt like a slap in the face. I glanced up to see my Aunt Sarah sitting across from me, her lips curling into a smug smile as she watched my reaction. I had to swallow my irritation. I took my seat, trying to pretend it didn't bother me, but I could feel the eyes on me, the judgment in the air. The conversation around me was a blur, talking about work, family vacations, the usual. But I could feel the tension growing. Every now and then, I'd catch snippets of passive-aggressive comments thrown my way, like my aunt talking about those types of jobs where you don't really get a paycheck unless you're lucky. Or my cousin, Luke, trying to make everyone laugh by bringing up how Olivia's little art thing was probably just a phase. I tried to stay calm. I wasn't going to let them get to me. Not this time. It wasn't until dessert that things really took a turn. That's when my aunt leaned back in her chair, gave me a wink, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Well, you were never really part of the family, were you, Olivia?" I felt my face flush, and for a second, I couldn't speak. It was like my brain was trying to process what she had just said. My grandma, who had been mostly quiet up to that point, didn't even bat an eye. My mom just sipped her wine, pretending she hadn't heard anything. And my cousins? They looked uncomfortable, but no one said a word. That was it. I stood up, and for a moment, the whole room fell silent. All I could hear was the sound of my fork tapping gently on my glass. I took a breath, making sure every eye was on me, and then I said it. "Let's celebrate the last time I'll let you all disrespect me." The room went dead quiet. Everyone's faces shifted from surprise to confusion. I wasn't sure what I expected, but it wasn't the laughter that followed. My Aunt Sarah, the one who started this, chuckled, like she thought I was joking. But this wasn't a joke. Not even a little. I could feel my heart racing as I locked eyes with my aunt. "You've all spent my whole life treating me like I'm some outsider. So if you want to keep playing your little games, that's fine. But not today." And with that, I grabbed my bag, turned on my heel, and walked straight out of the restaurant. As I pushed open the door, I heard a few hushed voices behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. When I stepped outside into the cool night air, I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. I stood there for a moment, leaning against the brick wall of the restaurant, just trying to steady myself. I had done it. I had stood up to them, finally. But my mind was spinning. I felt a mixture of exhilaration and a weird emptiness, like I was waiting for something to hit me. It was the kind of rush you get when you've done something irreversible, something you can't take back. I was trying to catch my breath when I heard footsteps behind me. At first, I thought it might be one of my cousins, maybe someone coming to apologize or ask if I was okay. I turned around, expecting to see someone looking guilty, maybe even trying to talk me back inside. Instead, it was my mom. She wasn't running after me. She was walking slowly, her heels clicking against the pavement with each step. I wasn't sure what to expect from her. She was always the neutral one, never picking sides, but also never stepping in when things got bad. She was just there. I'd always felt like my mom loved me, but her love was quiet and distant, the kind of love that couldn't protect me from my aunt's cruel remarks or my cousin's mocking behavior. So, seeing her walk toward me now felt strange. I braced myself, not knowing what to feel. "Olivia," she said, her voice soft but firm. "What are you doing?" I crossed my arms over my chest, my jaw clenching as I looked at her. "What am I doing?" "Really? You're asking me that?" She sighed, her eyes flicking to the ground before meeting mine again. "This isn't like you. You've always kept your head down and avoided confrontation." "Yeah, well, I'm tired of it." I shot back, trying to control the anger that was rising in me again. "I'm tired of being treated like the outsider, the one who doesn't belong. How long did you think I was going to let them walk all over me? I'm done being the extra guest, Mom. Done." Her expression softened for a moment, but I could see the unease in her eyes. "I know it's hard, but you've got to understand. They're family. They don't mean it like that." I scoffed, shaking my head. "No, they mean it. Every time. I've spent my whole life feeling like I don't belong here. And you just sit there, letting them do it. Do you even hear what they say about me?" She hesitated, glancing away for a second. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, almost pleading. "It's not easy, Olivia. You know how Sarah is. She's always been like that. And your cousins, they don't understand what you do. They're just, they're just trying to fit in with her." "Yeah, and I'm the punchline, right?" I retorted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "I don't even get an apology. No one's going to stop to think about how I feel. You don't get it, Mom. You never did." I didn't want to say it, but it came out anyway. The words I'd been holding back for so long. "You always pick them over me. Always." She flinched at that, and for a split second, I saw something in her eyes, maybe guilt, maybe regret, but before she could say anything else, I turned and started walking away. I didn't want to hear it. Not right then. Not from her. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I could hear her call my name, but I didn't stop. My feet moved faster, almost like they were carrying me away from the whole mess, from everything that had led up to this moment. I wasn't even sure where I was going. I just knew I needed distance, space to think, to breathe. The city lights blurred around me as I walked, and soon I found myself standing in front of a little cafe a few blocks away from the restaurant. I needed coffee. I needed a moment to clear my head. I walked inside, the bell above the door jingling softly as I stepped in. The place was nearly empty, just a couple of people hunched over their laptops. The quiet was a relief, almost like a balm to the sting that had settled in my chest. I ordered a coffee, the bitter warmth of it doing little to soothe the anger that was still bubbling under the surface. As I sat down at a table by the window, I pulled my phone out of my bag, almost instinctively. The screen lit up with a notification from my cousin Luke. I stared at it for a few seconds before opening the message. "Look, hey, Olivia. I don't know what that was all about tonight, but you really shouldn't have left like that. It was just a joke." I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I was so tempted to reply, to type out everything that had been building up inside of me for years. But I didn't. Instead, I set my phone down on the table, resting my chin on my hand as I gazed out at the streets. What was I even supposed to say to him? To any of them? It was clear to me now, none of them saw me the way I saw myself. They didn't care to understand who I was or why I did the things I did. They only cared about their little world, their rules, their expectations. And I had spent my entire life trying to fit into it. But I couldn't do it anymore. I had left the dinner, but I wasn't sure what to do next. My aunt would be furious, my cousins probably annoyed, and my mom. Well, my mom was still somewhere back at the restaurant, stuck in the middle of it all. She hadn't followed me outside, not even to check on me. It felt like she had always been just a little bit too late to step in when I needed her. But maybe it was time to stop waiting for her. Maybe it was time to stop waiting for any of them. As I sipped my coffee, I felt the familiar weight of uncertainty press down on me. I had made a stand tonight. But what now? And then the next message popped up, this time from my mom. Mom, Olivia, please come back. Let's talk. I stared at the message from my mom for a while, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to reply, to let her know I was okay. But another part of me, the part that had been silenced for so long, wasn't ready to cave. Not yet. I had been the one to always smooth things over, to be the one who made excuses for my family's behavior. But tonight was different. I didn't respond to her message. Instead, I closed my phone and turned it face down on the table. I didn't need to hear any more empty apologies or explanations. I had heard them all before, and they never amounted to anything. Every time something went wrong, my family would offer a sorry or let's move past it, but nothing changed. Nothing ever did. A soft bell jingled as the door to the cafe opened, and I looked up instinctively. I half expected it to be my mom, following me like she always did when I walked away from a confrontation. But it wasn't her. It was Sarah, my aunt. She walked in, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, her presence immediately filling the small space. My stomach churned. I should have expected her to come after me. She never let anything go. She spotted me immediately and walked over, her posture straight and confident. The kind of confidence that only comes from years of thinking you're always in the right. She pulled out a chair and sat down without waiting for me to acknowledge her. Olivia, she started, her voice just a little too sweet. I think we need to talk. I didn't respond right away. I just took another sip of my coffee, letting the silence stretch out between us. She sighed, as if this was the most exhausting thing she'd ever had to do. I don't know why you made such a scene last night. You know it was just a family dinner. We were all celebrating Grandma, and you had to ruin it. I felt a flicker of disbelief, of anger. Ruin it? She was sitting here, acting like I was the one who had caused the drama. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice level. I didn't ruin anything. You all have been treating me like an outsider for years. You don't get to act like this is just some small misunderstanding. Her eyes narrowed slightly, the corners of her mouth curling into a faint smirk. Olivia, you've always been so dramatic. It's exhausting. You've always been so sensitive. You really think everyone's out to get you. I felt a sharp, bitter laugh bubble up in my chest. Out to get me? I repeated. No, Sarah. You're not out to get me. You're just so used to getting everything you want, you don't even notice when you step all over people. You don't even see what you've done. Her expression didn't change. She didn't even flinch. And you're the victim, right? Always playing the martyr. It was like a switch flipped in me then. My patience, which had always been stretched thin when it came to Sarah, finally snapped. I put my coffee cup down, my hands trembling slightly as I clenched my fists on the table. Do you hear yourself? I shot back, my voice colder now. You never take responsibility for anything, do you? You always turn everything on me. You made me feel small for years, Sarah. Always saying I wasn't good enough. Always reminding me that I wasn't as successful as you. You think I don't notice that? You think I don't see how you've made every family event about you? She didn't even seem fazed. If anything, her smirk widened. I just don't think you understand the importance of family, Olivia. You're so wrapped up in your little hobby, your little photography thing, that you forget what matters. You never cared about fitting in, and that's fine. But don't come here, don't make everything about you, and then expect me to apologize. You're the one who made it awkward last night, not me. I could feel the heat rising in my chest. Hobby, I echoed, my voice shaking with fury. You think I've worked hard for years just to have you belittle me like that? You think my career, my life, is some joke? You think I didn't notice you and your perfect little family constantly making me feel like I wasn't enough? She leaned back in her chair, looking at me with that same patronizing expression that made me feel like I was a child again. You've never been part of this family, Olivia. I don't think you ever will be. You've always been on the outside looking in. You're just too stubborn to realize that. I felt my blood run cold at her words. I could hear them echoing in my head over and over again. Never been part of this family. And that was it. That was the final nail in the coffin. I stood up abruptly, pushing my chair back so hard it scraped against the floor. Sarah raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting me to react this way. I'm done, I said, my voice steady, but every word cutting through the air like a knife. I'm done trying to fit in with people who don't give a damn about me. I'm done making excuses for you and everyone else. You've made it clear how you feel about me, and you're not going to get another chance to treat me like this again. Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, there was a flicker of something like uncertainty in her gaze. But she quickly masked it with her usual smugness. Go ahead and run off, Olivia. It's what you do best. You'll never change. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I walked out of the cafe without looking back. But as I stepped into the chilly night air, a thought settled in my mind. I wasn't done yet. No, I wasn't going to let them just walk all over me anymore. This wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. The walk back to my car felt like it took longer than usual, though I wasn't sure if that was just my mind playing tricks on me. Each step was heavier than the last, as if I were carrying something much more than the weight of my body. My stomach churned with a mix of uncertainty and determination. I had walked away from the family dinner, but in my heart, I knew that wasn't enough. There was still unfinished business. I was done being the one to hold my tongue, done being the good girl, the one who let things slide and tried to keep the peace. But now I had a different idea. I reached my car, my fingers tightening around the cold metal of the door handle. The engine roared to life, and I drove aimlessly for a while. The streets blurred by as I tried to sort through everything in my head, everything that had led up to this moment. My Aunt Sarah's words echoed over and over again. You've never been part of this family. You're just too stubborn to realize that. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how right she was, though not in the way she thought. I was stubborn. I had spent years fighting to fit into a family that never wanted me there. But now I saw it clearly. I didn't need them to accept me. What I needed was for them to finally understand who I really was. And for that, I needed to make sure they saw me in a way they never had before. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat, pulling me from my thoughts. I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Luke, my cousin. Look, Olivia, I get that you're upset, but you can't just throw everything away over something small. Don't be so dramatic. I stared at the message, a strange calmness sweeping over me. The nerve of him. He had always been the nice one, the one who pretended to be neutral, but I knew better. He was just as complicit as Sarah, just as comfortable in the role of the family's favorite. I had never been good enough in their eyes, and I was tired of pretending like I didn't see it. I typed out a response, the words flowing out of me without hesitation. Maybe I'm tired of being the one who always forgives. Maybe I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter. You're right about one thing. Look, I am done. But not in the way you think. I had sinned, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But the truth was, I wasn't about to let any of them off the hook. Not anymore. I parked my car in a quiet spot near a park and sat there for a while, thinking through what I needed to do. I had one card to play. One thing that could finally make them realize what they had taken for granted. It wasn't about revenge in the way they might think. No, it was something much more subtle, much more satisfying. It was about forcing them to confront the reality of what they had lost. I pulled my phone out again and started typing, not to anyone in particular, but to all of them. I hope you all enjoy your little family dinner without me. I'm sure Grandma appreciated all the attention, as usual. But here's the thing. It's been a long time coming, but I've decided it's time to make my own way. You won't have to worry about me anymore. I sat there, staring at the message for a while, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. Sending this wasn't just about walking away, it was about drawing a line in the sand. It was about showing them that they couldn't push me around anymore. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed send. My heart skipped a beat. The next few minutes felt like a lifetime. I watched the notification bubble on my phone, expecting to see an immediate response. But nothing came. No one texted me back. Not Luke. Not Sarah. Not anyone. I didn't know if that meant they were stunned or if they just didn't care enough to respond. Either way, I wasn't waiting around to find out. I put the phone back down on the passenger seat and took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The wheels in my mind were already turning. I knew what needed to be done. It was time to take back control. Time to make sure they knew that I wasn't just some extra guest at their table. I wasn't just an afterthought in their lives. The plan had already started to form in my mind. I had been quietly building my life outside of them, away from the constant judgment and passive-aggressive remarks. I had built a business, something real, something that was all mine. But they had no idea how far it had come, how successful it had become. I could already picture the look on their faces when they realized the truth, that the person they had dismissed, the one they had pushed aside, was the one who had outgrown them all. It was a slow burn, but it would be worth it. Every single moment of it. But first, I needed to make sure I had one last thing to tie everything together. A little gift, something that would leave them speechless, something they would remember long after I was gone. I grabbed my phone again and pulled up my business account, scrolling through the recent updates. It was time to finalize the details. I had an idea in mind, one last step to make sure they understood who I was and why they should have respected me. I tapped a few buttons, confirmed the transaction, and sat back in my seat, letting out a long breath. The next few days were going to be interesting. The next day, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. Everything had been set into motion, and there was no turning back now. My phone buzzed constantly as messages from my family flooded in. Luke, Sarah, even my mom, everyone had something to say about the message I sent. But none of it fazed me. Not anymore. I spent the morning reading through their messages. Luke tried to be the voice of reason, telling me I was overreacting and that I shouldn't burn bridges with the family. Sarah, of course, had her usual smug tone, telling me that I would regret this and that I was making a scene again. But my favorite message, the one that made everything feel worth it, came from my mom. Mom, you've made a mistake. We're your family. We've always been here for you. You can't just walk away from everything. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly as I read that. My mother had always been the one to tell me I wasn't good enough, but now she was acting like she was the victim. Typical. I didn't even bother replying. I had bigger things to focus on. Later that afternoon, I got a notification that my latest investment had gone through, a move I'd been working on for months. I had just signed a deal with a company that would help expand my business into something much bigger than I had ever imagined. It was the kind of deal my family would have laughed off as impossible when they first heard about my idea. But now it was happening, and they would all find out in the most dramatic way possible. The following evening, I invited them all to a dinner. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable, and that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to sit there, pretending everything was normal, while they slowly began to realize the truth. The email I had sent out to them earlier, after I left the cafe, had one crucial detail they hadn't noticed at first. The subject line was a notification of an update to my business venture. I made sure to add that I'd be celebrating my most recent success at the dinner, right in front of them. I stood at the head of the table, where they had all gathered, and casually sipped my drink as they settled in. It was a slow burn as they all awkwardly avoided eye contact with me at first. Finally, after a few minutes of tension, I decided it was time. I raised my glass. Thanks for coming, everyone. It's nice to finally have you all in one place, I said, my voice just loud enough for the entire room to hear. Their eyes shifted toward me, and I could see Sarah try to hide her smirk. I've been meaning to share something with you, I continued, a calmness I hadn't known I was capable of settling over me. You all know how much I love photography and design, and how I've always felt a little, out of place in this family. But it turns out I've been doing a little more than just that lately. The silence grew thicker. I could see the realization hit Sarah first. Her smile faltered, just for a second, before she quickly recovered. "What are you talking about, Olivia?" she asked, her voice overly sweet. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and sent them a link to a recent news article about a major partnership I had just finalized. The headline screamed, "Up-and-coming entrepreneur secures major deal in global expansion." I watched as the table read the article on their phones, one by one. My heart beat a little faster as I saw the shock on their faces. The smug expressions melted away, replaced by uncertainty. You're serious?" Luke asked, his voice low, disbelief clear on his face. "I've been working on this for the past year, and now it's finally happening. I'm not just that extra guest anymore. I'm someone worth paying attention to." It was Sarah who broke first. You can't be serious. How could you have done this without telling us?" Without, her voice cracked slightly, her composure slipping. I smiled. "Oh, I've been telling you all along. I just don't think you were listening. Every time I tried to tell you about my work, you either ignored me or made fun of me. Well, now you're going to have to take me seriously because I'm not going anywhere. I built this on my own." Luke's face turned bright red, the reality of the situation sinking in. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell us?" "Because you don't care," I said simply. "You never have. I learned a long time ago that I don't need your validation. I don't need any of you to tell me I'm good enough. I'm good enough because I know it." Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Sarah stood up. Her face was flushed with anger, but there was a glint of something else in her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. "You think you've won, don't you?" she hissed. "You think we're all just going to sit here and congratulate you like you're some kind of hero? You're nothing but an embarrassment." I stood up, facing her now, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. "No, Sarah. I'm not an embarrassment. I'm finally me. And you can't control that anymore." For a moment, she glared at me, but then she turned, her heels clicking against the floor as she walked out of the room. Luke followed close behind, his face a mix of confusion and disappointment. And my mom? She didn't say a word. She just sat there, watching me, and for the first time, I saw her uncertainty, her regret. It was too late for apologies. Too late for everything. I looked at the empty seats at the table, feeling an odd sense of closure. They were all gone, leaving me alone in that room. But for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid to be alone. I was free.